Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40k Universe. I am your host Gershwin and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we're covering another request of Spacemarine chapters, as we talk about the Mantis Warriors. If you guys have any requests, please comment down below with whatever Spacemarine chapter, or pretty much any topic of Warhammer 40k you guys would like us to read the lore to you about. With that said, let's get into 40 Facts About the Mantis Warriors. The Mantis Warriors, originally known as the Mantis Legion, are the loyalist Space Marine chapter, believed to have been founded as part of the 8th founding in the year 598 of the 35th millennium. Created to help relieve the White Scars in monitoring and countering the many threats harbored by the Maelstrom Warpstorm and the Ultima Segmentum. The chapter color scheme was originally green and yellow, but has changed to a shining green with gold edging. The Mantis Warriors chapter badge has been recorded to be both a flaming mantis claw in the past and a mantis head at present. Long renowned across the Ultima Segmentum for their cunning, the Mantis Warriors chapter are certainly one of the most unsung defenders of the Imperium of Man. To those few who have heard of them outside the eastern fringe of the galaxy, the Mantis Warriors are renowned for their skills at guerrilla warfare and the devastating ambushes and sudden, large-scale assaults they are capable of unleashing upon their foe. Like many chapters who are tasked with standing as the sentinels over far-flung frontiers, or to carry out vigils in those darker backwaters of the galaxy, where the darkest threats lie in wait, the Mantis Warriors long stood alone, their autonomy seldom challenged, and no other allies to come to their aid. This persistent solitude was to change in the year 587 of the 41st millennium, when by the edicts of the High Lords of Terra, the Mantis Warriors and their charges within the Edimon cluster were incorporated within the newly formed allegiance of Space Marine chapters known as the Maelstrom Orders. The Maelstrom Orders are an alliance of Space Marine chapters dedicated to the defense of the volatile and dangerous region of the Ultima Segmentum, known as the Maelstrom Zone. Their objective was to protect the Imperium's interest and pacify the region. With this change in status came for the first time an allegiance of long standing with two powerful and very different chapters in culture and outlook, the Astroclaws and the Lamenters. Unfortunately, this was an allegiance that would ultimately prove to be the founding of the Mantis Warriors' undoing. As with many Astartes chapters of obscure origin, much of the details pertaining to the chapter's history and the early disposition of the Mantis Warriors have been lost to the official Imperial records. Such teachings and lore that the Mantis Warriors themselves retain on the matter have become so intertwined with myth and dense allegory as to be almost useless in deciding certain facts. The earliest record in Imperial archives likely to pertain to the Mantis Warriors can be found in the Libris Lauronia, a 777-volume treaty on the state of imperial power commissioned for the ascension of High Lord Gogol after the Nova Terra Integranum in the year 93 of the 36th millennium. The rare work is a comprehensive imperial historical chronicle, but it is one that has been repeatedly suppressed and censored by imperial authorities, and many doubt its truth, fearing too many revisions have been made. Further difficulties in the text are raised by the particularly obscure dialect of High Gothic in which the treaty is written, which had been popular at the Terran court of the High Lords during that time. It mentions in bombastic terms a chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, a warrior legion of the Manos of the 8th founding, of which the line of the Great Khan, by his sons the Marauders. The text goes on to praise their successors in combating the traitors of the Eye of Terror, as well as crushing Xenos threats and speaking of them operating far from home. The ancient text failed to name the Astartes chapter's homeworld or state the star system in which it was founded. That this elder chapter, spoken of in the Libris Laurania and the Mantis Warrior of the Badap War, are one and the same, seems likely as the chapter's own historical legends allude to a great calamity in their past against which they undertook a crusade lasting many centuries. Most telling, the Mantis Warrior's gene seed does bear the genetic tag of the White Scar's bloodline, the Marauders chapter being the second founding White Scar successor. The White Scar's gene seed has historically been one of the rarest employed in the creation of Space Marine chapters, with less than a tenth of currently operating Adeptus Astartes units owing their origins to the scions of Jagatai Khan. The first truly accurate historical record of the Mantis Warriors are only available from the year 455 of the 38th millennium, when the Magos Inviliaga of the Mechanicus noted that they had received a gene seed tithe from the Mantis Warriors. This evidence established the chapter as already being based within the Endymion cluster, while noting that the collection was long overdue, owing to the hostile local conditions in the region, a remark that indicates that the Mechanicus had already conducted prior, more successful tithes, though the records have been lost to posterity. This evidence, combined with several other clues, such as the chapter's presence in the myth of the indigenous people of the world of Lastrani and Hu, indicate that the Mantis Warriors were present in the Endymion cluster as its guardians for at least the last 1,000 standard years. The difficulty of determining the Mantis Warriors' history and origin should come as no surprise for the chapter that seems to value solitude and autonomy as much as these Astartes do. The Mantis Warriors' character was always a fundamentally aloof one, uninterested in what was happening in the wider Imperium, except for when it intersected with one of their affairs, or the affairs of the region of the Imperial frontier that were under their protection. In fact, in the days before they were ordered to become part of the Maelstrom Orders by the High Lords of Terra, their only real contact with another Imperial organization was with the secretive Death Watch chapter of the Inquisition's Ordo Xenos, to whom the Mantis Warriors provided many Astartes over the years, and who had similar interests in containing and eliminating the myriad of Xenos threats in the Maelstrom Zone. In character with their basic aloofness and desire for autonomy, the Battle Brothers of the Mantis Warriors have an uncommon streak of individualism and self-reliance, for each one is born a survivor. They are killers from the shadows, and the inheritors of a warrior lineage that descends from one of the Endymion cluster's savage Deathworld tribes, or warring feudal states. Each Mantis Warrior maintains their own war gear with a singular reverence to a higher degree than most other Space Marine chapters. Individual weapons and suits of power armor are handed down from generation to generation. Every custodian will in turn add their own embellishments to such an extent that each weapon and suit of power armor becomes a treasured and historic relic in its own right. This level of individualism is further evidenced by the high degree of customization in insignia, kill markings, and other forms of personal adornment. This includes prophetic sigils and warding prayers engraved into their armor or written on purity seals. In the aftermath of the Badap War, one prevailing emotion has hung over the chapter even after the end of the Penitent Crusade: shame. There is still a feeling of shock and disbelief about how they allow themselves to be blinded by their former Astral Claws allies and stray from the light of the Emperor, and they feel undeserving of forgiveness. To them, their rebellion was a crime that can never be fully atoned for, and their quest for redemption will never be at an end, so long as this chapter still exists. The gene seed of the Mantis Warriors has developed a flaw or mutation over the millennia, as the Preomnor gene seed implant does not function properly. As such, when a Mantis Warrior sets himself into a certain frame of mind, the Preomnor gland secretes a potent neural toxin that permanently changes the Astartes' psychology. The Space Marine is overcome by the feeling of the need for forgiveness for his many sins and shortcomings, and a dramatically increased reverence for the Emperor. This neural toxin alters the Space Marine's sense of space and time, increasing his neurological reaction rate to that only achieved in near precognitive states of most psychers. It also increases his already superhuman strength to a great extent. To a mortal, it would seem that the Astarte is simply stepping aside before anything happens. Unfortunately, this marvelous gift comes at a price. The psychological change is irreversible, and the Astarte's sight becomes tunnelized to the point of no longer being able to notice anything in the field of his view except the targeted foe. The Mantis Warriors call this state of mind battle haze. Each Mantis Warrior company has a unit of battle brothers who have given their all to the Emperor, and in an act of such faith have entered the battle haze. These units are called Mantis Religiosas. The battle brother who discovered this genetic flaw was called Maitreus, a captain who, after organizing the praying Mantide, subsequently fell into the battle haze, while battling a company of Astral Claws in the wake of the Badap War, after the chapter went renegade. And those were 40 facts about the Mantis Warriors. Part 2 is going to go over more detailed battles of the Bad App War and the actual role that the Mantis Warriors played during the Bad App War. So subscribe to the channel to get that. We're also going to go over some more details that we couldn't cover in Part 1. Jump on over to the wiki page if you don't want to wait, if you want to read up on them now because you want to start a Mantis Warrior army. Just jump on over there and get your fix in of Warhammer lore there. Again, guys, thank you so much for sending this request. If you have other requests, comment down below. Put suggestion followed by whatever request you have so we can get to those quicker. And it really helps out the channel if you like, comment, and subscribe. By you liking videos, you basically tell Warhammer, or you tell YouTube that you want more Warhammer 40k content. So YouTube gives you more Warhammer 40k videos. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.